Hi guys, welcome to our channel Movie Summarized. In this video we are going to see 2021 film Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. Before we start the movie, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do subscribe. It will help us motivate us to do further better movies. Well, let's start the film. The movie starts with a real Mandarin getting the powers of the Ten Rings whose origin is unknown, and from then he gets his power of immortality, and using that power he has been conquering several kingdoms and has overtaken many governments. And finally, using all his powers, he has created this organization known as Ten Rings. And then in 1996 he comes across a village, a magical village known as Talo, where he hears that they have some magical creatures, mysterious creatures, and also some powers. So he tries to go there and find about it. As he goes there in the route, he sees that the trees are constantly moving and that the roots are constantly changing, later finding out that it's all a trap. He loses his companions except him getting survived. Then he meets a girl who says him to return back, but not opting to do so, he starts fighting with her. And in the end, what happens is that they both fall in love. While that girl says this to her villagers, they say no. Since they have declined their proposal, they two get along and they marry. They have two beautiful kids named Shang-Chi, a boy, and his sister Xialing. The mother gives Shang-Chi a crystal saying that it would protect him from further problems. Now as Shang-Chi is all grown up and is in the present day, he wakes up and he sees a post saying that it is from his sister, wanting him to come back. Then he goes to work and we see that our hero Shang-Chi is in the duty of parking the cars. He along with his friend Kate are both in a dinner with their friends. They start advising them that you Shang-Chi, you have 4 languages, that is, you know to speak 4 languages, and yet you're wasting your talent over here. And you on the other hand, Kate, you have a degree and yet you are here. Both of these people are working over here and it is not preferred. Well, the next day Shang-Chi gets on a bus and then he faces a guy who asks his crystal that his mom had given him. Shang-Chi out of nowhere starts to fight martial arts and everything. His friend Katy has got shocked that from where did he learn all this martial arts, because since last 10 years he's been with me and he has been this normal innocent guy. But these bad guys aren't stopping anywhere soon, so our Shang-Chi fights back and in a wonderful way. Well, this is an epic fight scene. The bus gets torn by half, so our Shang-Chi starts to rescue all the passengers to other side. After all this fight, Shang-Chi meets his friend and she asks about his whereabouts and from where did he come from in the first place. So he starts to explain that his father is the real Mandarin and he owns this Ten Rings organization, and that his mother was killed off by his enemies and that he was given this knife to return to revenge. And after revenging him, after all this training and revenging him and killing him, Shang-Chi opted to not go back to that same place, the Ten Rings, and thus he came back over here. And this is his hideous past. Well, listening all to this, she gets further shocked and then he reveals that his name is not Sean as he used to say till now, but his name is Shang-Chi. Fearing his father's bad guys would come to get his sister as well, he comes to this place only to find out that his sister owns this place. And we find this another scene interesting one, that Abomination fights with Wang. Well, the next one is he himself, and then he faces his own sister. Shocked by this, his sister is very much angry at him and starts to punch all that she has. She knocks him down with a final kick with the legs. Then we see them all discussing and then she says that you said you would return to me in 3 days. I waited for you 3 days and that 3 days became 3 months. That 3 months became 3 years. I waited all along in my mom's shrine, but you never returned back. Only after 6 years I found out that I don't need you anymore. So I just started this own battlefield here. Well, then she asks, why did you return back? Then he says that, well, you sent me this post, and she replies, well, I didn't send it in the first place. And then we see their father's bad guys coming over here, and then we have this wonderful fight scene over here, and then suddenly out of nowhere, now our hero's friend falls down, but his sister gets her. Shang-Chi starts to fight with his own trainer where he trained in his childhood. Before killing him off, his father comes off and protects that guy, and he says that, well, finally I found my two children. He gets her green crystal as well, which she got by her mom. And then he says that, well, I have missed you all so much. Well, now that you have returned to my life, I am going to explain my plan, and while also doing that, in the dinner, he explains himself to be the real Mandarin and the owner of the Ten Rings organization, and that people all over the world will call him by their own names, such as like the Master, Khan, the Ten Rings leader, the real Mandarin, and all those names. And then he says that while his life was going downhill, then only he met Shang-Chi's mother, and then they fell in love, and he kept his 10 rings aside and he started a beautiful family with 2 kids. But all of a sudden, his past enemies came and slaughtered his wife, and only then he turned on his revenge mode, his god mode, and then he started killing all of them off, and he has been since a real Mandarin. And then he comes and explains that his mom is still alive and in that Talo village, and that people are trying to do something very bad to her, and then he's going to get her off from there and start to get her back. But Shang-Chi explains that his mom is dead, but he says no, not yet, and I'm going to get her, retrieve her back. And then says that with the help of these 2 green crystals, we could find a railway inside which opens only once in a year, and by using this method we could really find out when the gate is opening and when it is closing and the time interval of it. Well, Shang-Chi says that no, you must not harm the villagers because they are good people, and then a fight arises between the father and the son, and finally the father locks him up along with his friend and his sister inside a room. And then we find the fake Mandarin that he had seen in Iron Man 3, and along with him we see a mystical creature which doesn't have a mouth, a face at all, and we see that this creature is from the Talo village, the magical village, and says that it knows how to get there. And with the help of that, these people steal a razor blade's car and then get off through all these snappy, quirky routes, and finally get off through a waterfall, creating a portal and getting back into the magical Talo village inside, and seeing all these beautiful creatures which are so fantastic, and this small world is protected from the outside world, but the people are rejecting for them to come inside. But suddenly a Shang-Chi's mother's sister comes and says, well, they are also our people, so finally they accept them back. Shang-Chi says that only my mom was able to defeat my father, so could you please teach me those skills? And she says, well, definitely I could teach that, but before that we see that we people are protecting our city, our village from this great mystical bad creatures which is in that side of the wall, and that lots of people have come before, century after century, in order to get them back, get them freedom. And likewise your father too is doing the same, that he hears a voice. That voice promises the dark and greatest desire of their each individual, but that is completely fake, but that's what brings them over here, and lots of people have failed in doing so. And our Shang-Chi starts training with the help of his aunt, but meanwhile his sister is starting to prepare forcefully. But on the other hand, the real Mandarin has arrived, and then he starts taking on all the troops while father tries to get to the wall. Our son stops him, and we see the fight between the father and son. Eventually the son is pushed down to the deep sea underground, and the father goes and starts his first hit, breaking the wall. Eventually the small creatures start to get out, and here we see Kate and his sister Xialing all fighting over here between them and the 10 rings. But the creature starts coming off and they suck all the souls. So they say that they need to combine, but our razor blade rejects. But eventually, seeing that our aunt helps him, saves his life, he then accepts that okay, we could be friends and we could start fighting together. But lots of creatures are already out, so there's no way than to fight together. But eventually lots of them lose their life, and our Shang-Chi gets his life. The great protector of Talo village has waken up, and that is a great dragon, and with it Shang-Chi is riding on it, and with him getting up again, the hopes of the villagers are back. And then he goes on, stops his father. His father once again uses the 10 rings, but this time Shang-Chi starts to control them. And then the great demon has waken up and has come out, break free, and eventually killing the real Mandarin. But before he dies, he gives these 10 rings to our hero Shang-Chi, and he, along with this great dragon, starts to trap this great demon, but the small creature starts to give it life and eventually making it very strong. And there is a time where this great demon starts sucking life out of a great protector. Xialing says, better leave me, let me die, but Shang-Chi says, not this time I'll not leave you. And then we see a kid shooting a perfect arrow into this great demon, eventually it losing balance. And then Shang-Chi gets his 10 rings and uses its powers and puts it into this great demon and taking it up back, piercing through all of its body and making it into parts and parts. And then we see that them eventually winning and they making honor to all the people deceased. The next scene we see Shang-Chi and Kate returning back to the city and explaining all this adventure, and then we see Wong come up and explain to them about what happened when he first used these 10 rings. He says that there has been a beacon beamed up due to this. They start discussing what this beacon is all about along with Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner. Before further discussing, they prefer to take a drink at the karaoke party. Wong along with Shang-Chi and Kate start singing and dancing all along. And then we see in the final scene the 10 rings being taken over by Xialing, that is Shang-Chi's sister. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and do subscribe. Thank you.